This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Another absolutely glorious day here in the Peg. And we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, Stanley Cup Playoffs. Oilers one game away from getting back to the Cup final. The Panthers will have another crack to book their ticket to the final tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes. Big injury last night in the game, which we will get to. And an interesting report that has just surfaced coming out of Montreal on Brock Nelson nixing a trade to the Winnipeg Jets the night before the NHL trade deadline. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Morad is going to join us later on to get into the hockey talk and some Jets offseason topics. And we're going to start off with the Bombers with Eddie Tait from Blue Bomber HQ. Hard to believe Bombers is finishing up the final practice of training camp. Final preseason game this weekend, the second half of the home and home against the Riders. And then it's bye week. I got to find out about what happens in a bye week for week one. I mean, do guys leave? Do they just stick around? Is it more practices? Very strange time to have a bye week, but Ed Tait will join us. The Sea Bears are in action tonight, coming off a couple tough games against Calgary, and they've got their hands full tonight with the 3-0 first place Vancouver Bandits. Looking forward to checking in with Coach Mike Taylor. And Pat Gregoire is going to join us a little later on as well. We'll look at the lines tonight in the playoffs, as well as the Memorial Tournament. Jack Nicklaus hosting again on the PGA Tour. And, of course, we'll get to our Assiniboia Downs picks as well a little bit later on. Quite a night last night at the track for one of us. We'll get to that later on. Couple things. First off, folks, we are looking forward to, actually, after the show today, we're going to be hooking up with a few of the women on the Canadian women's national soccer team for you to have on in the next couple days. Of course, we've kind of been doing this entire week as Desiree Scott Week because one of the great athletes ever to come out of our city, Des is playing her final match as a member of the Canadian women's national team, where she won 3 Olympic medals, including 1 gold with Canada. 1 p.m. on Saturday is the game against Haiti. You'll have all the stars of the team right now, and of course, Des wearing the red and white for the final time, representing not only Canada, but of course, her hometown of Winnipeg, Manitoba, and all of us here in the city. If you don't already have tickets, grab them. The link is in the description of this video, as well as with the podcast. Be great to give Des the send-off that she deserves after everything that she's done for soccer in Canada, but particularly right here. Had a great chat with Rob Gale yesterday on the program about it. Of course, Diana Matheson jumped on Monday, which was really fun. And we're hoping to have Des and a couple of the other girls from the team on in the next couple of days. You can also go to winnipegsportstalk.com. We do have some tickets, which we're contesting out. And a huge thanks to the Canada Soccer folks who sent us over a... Remis was like John Gruden last night doing the unboxing. But we've got some great Canada Soccer gear, which we'll be putting into some prize packs. And I think what I might do for some of this Canada Soccer gear is when people are at the game to send us photos of them with their daughters, with their friends, with their families at the game. And we've got some Canada scarves, some great Canada Soccer hats, and more to give away, I believe, a jersey. So we'll do that for people that are getting out there to support the ladies and the team, and of course, recognize Des and her incredible contribution. So Saturday, 1 p.m., book that, hit the link, both on the contest page, Winnipeg Sports Talk, and in the link to grab your tickets for Saturday. One other thing tonight, and we'll talk about this when Pat joins us, but it's poker night tonight for WSTers. Certainly ESTers, welcome to join us as well. We've done this a number of times before. Tonight, we're back at it. It is the Winnipeg Sports Talk Poker Series. You go to Coolbet, click on poker, download the poker app, and then go in to tournaments. And if you just click on the search, there's a little magnifying glass. Just put in WST. It'll come up, enter. It gets going tonight at 8:30 p.m. Should be a lot of fun. We'll have information on our social channels as well. If you haven't played with us before, and if you have before, just search WST, get in there. We will see you at 8:30 p.m. $100 bounty on my head and the head of Michael Remis, who will join us in just a minute. By the way, while you're hitting WST for that soccer contest, we're over 50% sold for that Gold Eye game. The response has been amazing. June 19th, we're doing the Gold Eyes patio party with WST. Would love to see you out there. Get the tickets before they are gone, and should be a lot of fun. Liz is going to be coming out, and O'Connor's going to be there. We'll have our whole team, and looking forward to seeing so many of you from the chat and podcast listeners. Everybody is welcome. All right, before we bring in Michael Remis, let me give a big shout out to all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Prairie Toyota Dealers, and Ben Moss. Roldy's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake and F Apparel, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Breezy Bend, The Gold Eyes, Assiniboia Downs. We'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp, Waverly and McGillivray, and fan feedback for fansfirst.ca. Welcome to everybody in chat. What's going on? Michael Remis, what is up? How are you, man?
Doing good, Huss. Fun time of year. Nice outside. CFL around the corner. Some drama in the conference finals here. Both of them. Exciting game 5 tonight, and looks like we're headed for a rematch. We'll wait and see. But hey, we got a lot of great events here too. Sea Bears tonight, Assiniboia Downs, Bombers around the corner. Valor's having some exciting games. The soccer game here with Canada on Saturday. So there is a lot going on, even if we're still post Jets and pre free agency.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is a little bit of a post Jets hangover, I think, for a lot of fans. I am interested, though. I mean, for those of you that are here that identify as just big time Jet fans, and maybe we'll put this out right now to the chat. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray? How dialed in are you and how locked in are you on these conference finals? I mean, I've certainly been watching them or paying attention to most of the games, but it's different when your team's not in it. And Remis, every year, it does seem like, unless your team is playing in it, there's a real lull during the conference finals before we get to the Stanley Cup final playing for the trophy.
I think so. And I think, we've seen it here, a bit of, you can take time to exhale. Like, we're going pretty hard with games every second night, 8:30 starts. I had a lot of late nights, and the Jets are eliminated into the conference finals. They're like, well, you know what? I need to take a bit of a breather here from watching hockey every second night and staying up late. So, maybe in the Cup final, you'll see a bit of a increase. If it's a rematch, I think there would certainly be intrigue, especially if you want to see Connor McDavid get that, first Stanley Cup that you've seen great players before him, like Crosby, Ovechkin, Taves and Kane, Kopitar, great players, get that Stanley Cup, and we'll see next round. But I think Bombers too, you're in training camp. We do the week 1 bye, strange, not ideal. And, so there is, I think, it's a bit of a down. We've seen that with, our numbers here going from, the concurrent viewers during the playoffs to post Jets, bit of a lull.
People needed a little time out. They might be checking it out. I know you podcast listeners are still with us.
There's a lot of people on the podcast, I think, too.
Appreciate everyone jumping on, though, especially for everyone that makes it a part of their routine to join us live when we're doing the show every day at 1 p.m. We'll get to some of the feedback from everyone talking about if you're really paying attention to these conference finals or sort of waiting for the offseason to really get going. They're certainly not doing that in Edmonton. Just did the lock shop with Dusty, man. Everyone is all fired up for the Oilers. Big win last night, Remo, but it did come at a cost. And listen, I don't think there's any Jet fans that are surprised that a guy like Mason Marchment's running around trying to exact his pound of flesh. The Stars didn't get a win, but they did eliminate Zach Hyman from the rest of the playoffs. He had surgery this morning on his wrist. Really unfortunate because Zach had been such a big part of what Edmonton had been doing. And I mean, it was one of those plays where it's just a guy kind of leaning into him. And I originally thought, Reem, that it was his shoulder that was injured, but apparently it is his wrist. And the hit machine, Zach Hyman, now eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that'll be a big hole in the Oilers lineup.
Yeah, I wonder if you had to make a power poll of players that you now hate after watching the Stanley Cup final, where does Mason Marchment rank for you? Is he number one, or is Braden Shen up there from the Blues? Take your pick here.
Jamie Benn certainly.
Yeah.
We'll have a spot on that power poll.
Jamie Benn, yeah, that's pretty good. So it looked like a harmless play. He goes in to try to make a big hit. Hyman gets out of the way and he goes through the wrist. You wonder if he had some pre-existing injury there that got aggravated from it, or the fact that he still held onto the stick while getting hit right in the hand did something. And yeah, everyone's reporting that it was surgery on the wrist, and Zach Hyman had put it to another level in terms of hitting. And yes, John Shannon reporting broken wrist, and put it to another level in terms of hitting. I got to find that stat, but it's like more hits in these playoffs than he had all season. And talk about elevating your game, and huge player for the Oilers, and that's going to be a big loss for them for the rest of the series, and if they advance to the Stanley Cup final.
Lots coming on the chat. Comment, is Huss fighting something, or is he hoarse from partying last night? It was Tuesday night. I mean, there was no full tilt shenanigans last night. Comment. Yeah, no, for the last little while, just when I talk for a long time, which often happens on these show days, sometimes it gets at me, but yeah, little shot of water, a little DP, and we're good to go. Tonight, Remus, we've got the Panthers and the Hurricanes. The Canes avoided the humiliation of a third straight sweep under Rod Brind'Amour, and a fourth straight conference finals sweep with their win in game number 4. But the big news today for the Florida Panthers is all the guys that were out last game, including Reinhart and Mikkola, will be back in tonight. And that is going to make, I think, a Panther team that was already hungry to just move on from this series even more poised to get the job done.
Yeah. So they've dominated in their games, and getting Reinhart back. Mikkola has been pretty underrated last year, and last year it was Forsling with the come and go party, and Mikkola was kind of behind him a bit in his shadow. But this year, Nico Mikkola showing what an asset he is to the Panthers blue line. It was previously on St. Louis, and yeah, I think we're headed for this rematch. Let's get it over with, so we don't need to drag it out. Would I like to see Carolina 4-7? Sure, we'll see if they can continue to play their game, but if Florida's getting those guys back, I think we're very headed for a rematch, and I'm here for it. I'm not in the camp of, no, we need some new teams. I'm not in that camp. I want to see McDavid get revenge. You saw how devastated they were last year after coming back down 3-0, so let's get to the rematch. I'm excited to see McDavid in a cup final again.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you as well. I think that the storylines of a rematch of a series that went 3 for the Panthers, 3 for Edmonton, and then the Panthers won in Game 7, with the McDavids and the Draisaitl's that are in it, the Panthers looking to go back-to-back is exactly what people want. And to be frank, I'm not sure I can handle 7 games of the Hurricanes, or the Dallas Stars for that matter, the way these teams have been playing.
Yeah, I don't want to see the Dallas Stars in the final. Although I don't know how you feel as someone who supports the Jets watching Dallas, lose to Edmonton, thinking, oh, the Jets were right there. Does it make you feel different? We talked about, how Toronto fans may feel after watching Carolina get steamrolled here by Florida for the first 3 games. But, I mean, these are the most exciting teams. You want that. And aren't you even more excited for more Paul Maurice post-game press conferences as well? He's just provided so many great quotes throughout the playoffs. No one loves the microphone more than him. We haven't even played them. We've done a disservice to our listeners playing all his great one-liners. What a legend behind the bench, Huss. A potential 2-time Stanley Cup champion, but also even greater behind the mic for the press conferences.
He can't help himself right now. I mean, he's talking about shotgunning beers and going to church. I mean, and he has them playing out of the palm of his hand as well, the media. And listen, if I was in those scrums, I'd be teeing him up for some gold as well. Maurice is a much more fun guy to be around, though, when his team is winning. Wasn't in a particularly great mood after the Game 4 loss, but I have a feeling that we're going to have plenty of time to listen to Paul Maurice pressers over the course of the next couple of weeks, because I'm pretty sure they will be representing the East. I guess the big question is, do they do it at home or can they get it done tonight? We'll get into it in the line. They actually are a slight favorite tonight, which they were an underdog in games 1 and 2, which they did win. But listen, with the full lineup, knowing that Edmonton is 1 game away from booking their ticket to the finals and can do so tomorrow, I think we're going to see the killer instinct of a championship team right now go out and get it done tonight in Carolina. Now that the Canes have at least got the monkey off their back and have a win in the conference finals.
Yeah, they got a win, so, you can knock that off. We don't need to talk about this losing streak in the conference final. We went over it yesterday, 3 straight sweeps, not 4. So, look, Carolina, they've got a great season. They're in this easy division where they were able to go over New Jersey, who didn't have Jack Hughes, and Washington, who some people thought was flawed. So, hey, congrats to them. It's quite an accomplishment. They got to find a way to get over. But I don't think there's any blow it up talk though in Carolina like there's been in Toronto. Though, Huss.
No. I think that the media pressure and fan pressure is a little different in Carolina than it is in the GTA right now. Although it is funny, and I'm sure you've heard this, Reem, as we're now a week or so removed from the embarrassing performance that the Leafs put forth in Game 7 after Game 5. There are far more voices willing to say out loud, run it back with the core 4 in Toronto. Not everybody. We see Biz out there, and I heard O-Dog yesterday on Overdrive saying that more and more, not the Bizes, but people at Costco, people just at the gas station, saying, are we sure we're going to be better if we get rid of these guys?
Yeah, who are you getting to replace Mitch Marner's 100 points? How are you going to replace that? And I think it showed. They took Florida to Game 7. So you could argue that was the real Eastern Conference final. And, just the way that the divisions are set up, you can have the best series in the first round. That's why this playoff format really dumb. So we'll see. I'm curious what happens, but it sounds like, Mitch and Toronto ready for a separation. I don't know if that's the best and how Toronto will rebuild, but everyone's looking forward to the free agent class, not of this year, but of next year. A lot of big names. Could they go into there? And I'm sure they'll find someone to replace him, but it's going to be tough. That's 100 points this year. That doesn't grow on trees. So I think run it back, us. They were right there. They're a good team.
Hey, listen, I'm here for it just for, the reaction when they lose, the chaos around it. Mitch Marner, a hell of a hockey player. And John Tavares, listen, I guess he's not the priority between those two, but if he walks out, who's playing second line center for them? To be honest, as a stopgap, I'd be more than pleased if the Winnipeg Jets could get John Tavares on a reasonable deal for 3 years. We know that the hole at the center ice position. Speaking of that center ice position, though, Reem, let's talk about this report. Now, you sent this over to me just before the show. And it is sorry, I'm not hitting the right link here.
Here, I got it here.
You can pull it up. And it is from what is this? RG. I'm not familiar with it, but Marco D'Amico is a beat reporter covering the Habs in the NHL draft. He's also a regular guest on 690 in Montreal and BPM Sports. So he's a Habs guy, but, a connected hockey guy. He's got the report that Brock Nelson nixed a trade to Winnipeg before the Islanders dealt him to Colorado. Now, there's been plenty of talk in the aftermath of the Jets, inability to get that number 2C. About Kevin Cheveldayoff, from some fans, saying, hey, this is on the GM because they didn't get that piece that would have put them over the top. I will remind everybody that there's no piece is guaranteed to put you over the top. Look at Ranton right now with the Stars. Look what happened to the Colorado Avalanche. And it was a very, very thin market, especially at top six center. Brock Nelson was the guy that everybody wanted. And we'd heard reportedly over and over that the Jets were making a big-time pitch to make that happen. Well, unfortunately, Brock Nelson had a modified no-trade clause, and the Islanders' final offer was about a 3-year deal for $7 million. He didn't extend, but they're reporting that the Jets had a deal in place with the Islanders, but Nelson declined to waive his no-trade clause. At that point, Lou had to go to Colorado, and I'll say this, he did quite well. I mean, they got Callum Ritchie as well as a first-round pick, but the package reported from Winnipeg that was agreed to was draft picks, which certainly would have been a first-round pick. I think there was a first and a third that went to the Islanders from Colorado in their deal, and one of Brad Lambert, Colby Barlow, or Braden Yeager would have been included in the proposed deal, along with the draft picks. And listen, I just bring this up. It's somewhat interesting to know that there's actually reports that this did happen. We'd heard rumblings that was what prevented the Jets from acquiring Nelson, which is unfortunate. But it is the reality of the National Hockey League right now, with so many players having no moves or modified no trades. Unfortunately, in Winnipeg, we're often on those lists. And the unfortunate part about this, Reem, and I'll ask Morad about this, considering the Jets made a push that basically got a deal done, and it was the player that resisted, I do wonder if they'll move more like they did the previous year, like Sean Monahan, and try and get these deals done earlier, because in a market where there was a very scarce number of players that you think would help you, if one doesn't get done, it makes it pretty tough to turn it around the other way. And that's why, with all due respect to Vlad Nemetsnikov, Vlad was the number 2C for a team that had been looking at upgrading for a while.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused as to why so often GMs try to trade players with no trade clauses. Like reports of Mitch Marner not waiving his no trade clause for Mikko Rantanen, and Torrey Krug blocked a trade a couple years ago from St. Louis. These players have earned the no trade clauses, and it seems like GMs just figure, hey, we could try to trade him anyways. And now that this is out there, they'll want to waive it. So, but I think when you look at the market for UFA centers, there wasn't one. The other top one was Scott Lawton that the Leafs acquired, and I don't think it worked out really well there. So you got to take a swing. It didn't work out. Maybe you do get more creative and try to pounce earlier, like Dallas did, getting Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci. But I think you have to say, hey, if someone has a no trade clause, is it really going to be worth your time trying to put together a deal for them to just nix it? So not much of a surprise, this report that Brock Nelson did, put a kibosh on a trade between the Jets and the Islanders. But I don't know, you look at the trade that happened, I think Colorado might have some regrets down the line for getting one series, and he did not have a good series for them. They gave up a first-round pick, and Callum Ritchie is a very good prospect. But I do wonder, are the Jets, if they lose Ehlers, are they going to be more open now to moving one of their top prospects or even this year's first round pick as well.
Well, I think regardless of whether Ehlers, maybe even more so if Ehlers stays, I think the urgency to win now might mean that that pick and a player maybe does go for someone that can come in and take care of that 2C position that, once again was an issue this year. We'll talk about that with Morad a little bit later on, but we're going to fire it up with our guy Eddie Tait as the Bombers finish up training camp today and get ready for their final preseason. Big shout out to our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you've got a move this summer coming up, lean on the experts at Rolly's, family owned and operated for 60 years in Winnipeg and the most trusted name in moving. Click on request an estimate at Rollies.com. Put in the promo code WST and let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved. They'll turn it around with a great quote quickly and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that Rollies is famous for now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies Transfer, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Find out more. Request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. Big shout out and smiles all around to our friends at St. Vital Dental Center. Gang, if it's been a minute since you've been to the dentist, pop by and see our pal Dr. Terry and his wonderful staff at 167 St. Anne's. St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans. In Old St. Vital, now have a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with free parking in the background and a full array of dental services with state-of-the-art equipment, everything from cleanings and checkups all the way to things like dental implants. You can find out more on all of their services and make an appointment today at stvitaldental.ca. Tell them the boys at WST sent you. We got some beautiful weather coming up for this weekend. Might I remind you, there's still a few days to get on over to your local Manitoba liquor marts and pick up the Canadian Club pack of their ready-to-drink coolers. It's not just Canadian Club and ginger ale now, folks. They've added the Citrus Smash and the Lemonade Iced Tea half and half. All of them are great, and they're on sale right now. Get ready for a hot summer weekend at your local Manitoba liquor marts with the iconic Canadian Club and the new Canadian Club pack of ready-to-drink coolers. And hey, shout out to Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. I know many of you are going to be heading out of town this weekend and really getting things going for the summer. If you haven't already, hit up Manitoba Battery for all of your battery needs. Stop wasting time and money at the big box stores. You'll save up to $50 a battery for your boat, for your camper, by shopping local at Manitoba Battery. You can see them on Logan Avenue or their new location on Dovercourt Drive, or give them a call or order online at manitobabattery.com. They'll deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere in the city with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Shop local, save cash. Manitoba Battery and manitobabattery.com for all your battery needs. All right, we got Bombers Riders on the road this weekend and then a bye week, and that is going to be interesting. I'm going to bring in Ed Tait to join us to fill us in on the latest on the blue and gold as we get ready for the kickoff of the season. This segment brought to you by Ben Moss. Ben Moss is proudly Canadian-owned and operated with history dating back more than 100 years. 3 locations in Winnipeg, Polar Park Shopping Centre, St. Vital Centre, and Kildonan Place. Committed to customer satisfaction, check out a large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, and mined diamonds available with payment plans to suit your need. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, for the love of jewelry. Eddie Tait joins us from Blue Bomber HQ. Look at this set. There's a lot of great backgrounds we have coming up on the program. Dan Fink always does great ones on the road. Eddie, this is a pretty nice. You guys get a new clubhouse over the off season?
First of all, is this thing working?
It is.
Okay.
It sounds great.
Yeah, we got a new clubhouse. This is our new set for our Huddle show, and over there is where we do the Handled Internally podcast. So yeah, Wade has splurged and fixed up our little rec room here for our little playhouse for some of the guys. And yeah, we've done a couple Huddle shows already down here. It's got rave reviews. I didn't have anything to do with it, and that's why the reviews are so positive.
Well, hey, no, the reviews are so positive because the brews are so positive because of the content that you are cranking out. Hey, I just have a little bit of breaking news here.
Okay.
The Jets have just released a statement regarding Captain Adam Lowry. Jets captain Adam Lowry underwent successful hip surgery yesterday. It is anticipated his rehab will take 5 to 6 months. He's expected to make a full recovery. That's huge Winnipeg Jet news. We'll talk about that coming up a little later on when Murat joins us, but I figured we'd just get that out right away before we dive in. Not good, Eddie. I mean, you've followed this team for a long time. I mean, the contributions that Adam Lowry makes on and off the ice every day. I mean, obviously, I guess it's good to get done at the beginning of camp, but I mean, we're talking about June, July, August, September. There's still October and November. I mean, that could eat into a big part of the season for the captain.
I don't know if you saw earlier in camp too, after the Jets got eliminated, Coach O'Shea gave a shout out to the way they played, and he specifically mentioned Adam Lowry and his leadership. So it gets noticed from afar in a different league by a coach that's all about leadership. So that is a big one, and everybody that's a Jets fan hopes that Lowry gets back quick because they need his presence out there.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no, I love that. Was so classy of Osh to just talk about there. I think he knew where the entire community was. That was so tied into the playoffs, but not a surprise at all to me that Adam Lowry is a Mike O'Shea guy.
No surprise. They're the same, cut from the same cloth, right? They're both team first guys, and if you see a teammate in trouble, he'll be the first to drop the gloves or go after a guy or call him out. And that just seems like when Mike O'Shea was playing all those years, and now the same as the head coach. He does not stand for anybody taking a shot at a teammate, and it's always team first. So yeah, you're right. There's no surprise that the coach here loves the captain there.
Ed, I had the pleasure of being at the Taste of the Bombers event last week. Unbelievable. It just gets better every year.
But see, I stopped at McDonald's on the way home. I didn't get to it, so you'll have to give us the scouting report.
Listen, we broke it down pretty good on WST the next day. I think the Lobster Bay was amazing. Ooh. I mean, that 529 steak and lobster slider that they did was one of the best things I've ever eaten. Confusion Corner had a great chicken taco. I mean, there were so many great things. But what's so cool about that event for sponsors and some of the season ticket holders that are there is it was kind of just mingling with a bunch of the players. And we all know how friendly the CFLers are, especially the Bombers. But it was funny. I sat down with Sergio Castillo and Stanley Bryant, and I said, guys, how's it going? And we just BS'd a little bit. And I said, hey, so we're now well into camp. I mean, as veterans, how excited are you to just be done with this training camp? And Sergio laughed, but Stanley was like, oh my God, it can't come soon enough. And that is the nature for veteran players. But this has been a different training camp for the Blue Bombers with the number of players that exited in the offseason. And while we all know where those two guys are going to be come week 2 when the Bombers get going, there has been a lot of interesting positional battles to sort of answer the questions coming into camp over who are going to be the guys that Coach O'Shea will lean on when this season begins.
Yeah, it has been fascinating that way. It does seem long because today was officially the last full practice of training camp. Tomorrow is a kind of a walkthrough day before the team flies to Regina, and then they have the bye next week. So they will be on the field, I think, a few days next week before their week 2 season opener. But it's been 3 weeks since today, and it has been an interesting camp because, as you touched on, Huss, there's been some vacancies, and that's not been the case necessarily this many vacancies in past years with so much continuity, but there's still some stuff to be determined Friday night in Regina. They'll pick the team the next day or make their cuts the next day, and probably the day after that add to their practice roster. But I still don't think we've got answers yet about who the left guard is going to be. That's Liam Dobson's old spot. He went to Hamilton. The kick return kick return job's kind of up in the air because Peyton Logan's been hurt for most of camp. And so there are 5 or 6 guys fielding punts this week and kickoffs this week. So that's still to be determined. The most intriguing positional battle to me is in the receiving core. You mentioned Kenny Lawler moving on, and of course Drew Wolodarski did too, both to Hamilton. Pokey Wilson went to the New York Jets, so there's some openings there. And I'm one of those guys that was guilty of assuming that it would be filled, those jobs would be filled by some of the CFL vets they brought in, and Dylan Mitchell, Reggie White Jr., Jarrett Stearns, Gavin Cobb, all with CFL experience. But I'll tell you what, some of the guys that were here last year, Eric Wheatfall, Myron Mitchell, Cody Case, those guys have all had really good camps, and they're right in the fight. So Friday night could determine, who gets those starting jobs and who gets released and who gets put on the practice roster. It's going to be a lot more theater than we're used to in these parts for a preseason game.
Eddie, let's talk about Dylan Mitchell for a minute. He came in, I think we all expected that he'd be one of the go-to guys right off the bat. He's been running with the 2s for most of camp. And sort of said in a piece earlier, maybe he wasn't where he needed to be at the start of camp and then missed practice earlier this week. What can you tell us about his status right now as we get closer to the regular season?
Yeah, he's come on a little bit. I think he had a really slow start to camp. I think he's got better. But it says something when you're not working with the number 1 unit. And I think it opened some people's eyes when in last Saturday's preseason game, he wasn't with the ones, the quote-unquote ones. And yesterday, you're right, he missed practice for personal reasons. I don't know what the extent of that is, but and it's interesting because, again, you shouldn't assume anything in this business and just, write a guy into the depth chart in ink because I thought he would have been a slam dunk. But at this point, I think he's in a dogfight for those jobs because some of those other guys, Carrick Wheatfall and Myron Mitchell in particular, 2 guys from last year, have had outstanding camps. And that's the way this is supposed to work, right? It's not like in an NFL camp where if you draft a guy high or you spend a lot of money on a guy in a free agent in free agency, he's almost locked into that roster spot because you've made that kind of financial commitment to him. It doesn't work like that in this league. In a lot of cases, it really is best man wins. And Dylan Mitchell's in a fight, I would say. And so he needs a really big Friday night in Regina to get the spot that we all assumed he was going to get back in February when they signed him.
You mentioned the return game, and returning was a big topic last year just because Janarian Grant took off and then continued to be Janarian Grant and reminded everybody all season long what he's able to do. Peyton Logan, I think, is the guy we think will be that guy. Where's he at right now health-wise, and what have you seen from the other guys trying to kind of barge into the conversation for being a guy that can be an important part of special teams?
It's really an interesting question, Huss, because, you mentioned Janarian Grant and what happened last year with the uncertainty at that position at the start, and then they, parachute in Lucky Whitehead, and I thought he did a capable job, but, that's such an important position in this league. You can get probably about 100 touches as a returner between punt and kickoff returns, so it's not something you just kind of slough off. And I thought when the Bombers signed Peyton Logan in free agency, I was saying it right into the start of training camp, I thought that might have been their most important signing because of the amount of touches he's going to get and because it's such an important job in this league in terms of just, flipping the field and field position. But he got hurt early, and so he's kind of, he's disappeared off the radar because he's not around. I mean, he's here watching practice and stuff, but he's not on the field, so it's opened the door for a lot of other guys. And man, there are 3 or 4 guys doing kickoffs and punt returns this week. So it's still wide open. Trey Vival, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, was a guy that I liked on Saturday. He's a cornerback too, so that the more you can do is important and as a depth guy. They got a couple of receivers back there. Cody Case who did a little bit last year, looked like he might be the alternative, but he got hurt. Myron Mitchell, who we saw opened last year as the main kick returner, he's been back there too. There's a couple new guys, so that one is wild because of all the positions, you can't really evaluate the kick return job until you see them in real live action because you just can't simulate it in practice. You're not getting run over by people. There's not real blocking in front of you, and you got to read that kind of stuff. So that one next to the receiver fight, that one to me is the next biggest one to keep an eye on Friday.
I was chatting with Sergio, and he, of course, was the only kicker in camp, very secure in his job, 5 field goals in the game on the weekend. Is there a competition at the punter spot? Sheehan certainly done a great job, but they have someone there. I mean, that's one of those positions that we don't talk about a lot, but it's very, very important in 3-down football to have a punter that can get the job done for you.
Yeah, so the other punter, James Evans, was one of their global draft picks this year. He played at Indiana, and every once in a while he'll crush one into the stratosphere. And it reminded me of John Ryan the first time I saw him when the Bombers drafted him. He put a couple into the sky, and you think of the hang time and how valuable that could be in our league. Like a lot of kickers, he's going to battle the inconsistency, right? So you can't crush one and then hit a 29-yarder off the side of your foot. So we'll get to see him in the preseason game too. He's been impressive. I think there's a lot of faith in Jamison Sheehan because of his directional punting. And again, it doesn't get enough credit. In our league with the wider field, you've got to put it between the numbers and the sidelines, or you got to put it where the special teams coach tells you to put it. And he was the only guy in the league last year that didn't punt for a single, and that's massive in the CFL for field position. And so I still think it's his job to lose. Obviously, he is the incumbent, but there's something about this James Evans kid too that's intriguing because of that live leg. I'm not sure that you'd keep a practice roster spot for a punter, but if he's as talented as he looks on occasion, they might be tempted to do that.
I'll tell you what, if he's pushing Sheehan, he must be really impressing people because you mentioned, Ed, I mean, the intricacies of the punting position in the CFL is different than everywhere else. And, I can think of a number of occasions last year, especially the Labor Day game in Regina, where his punting, not putting it into the end zone, putting them in either forcing teams to try to bring it out and create a turnover or having them start in the shadow of their end zone, ended up being huge for the Bomber defense in the overall field position game that the Bombers also often end up playing.
Yeah, he's got all those weird kicks in his bag too, with the helicopter kick, and he can do the end over end ones. I think it was the Labor Day game where that Mario Alford just couldn't get his hands on one, and Nick Hallett recovered it in the end zone for a touchdown. So there's people look at the punting average, and it bothers me when, as I used to have a vote for the All-Star team, people would just pick as the All-Star punter the guy with the highest average, but that's not really doing the job justice, because I think the guy who, I'm drawing a blank, but the guy who was the CFL All-Star punter last year, he had the highest average, but he put a lot into the end zone too. So those are kicks that Mike O'Shea would not put up with, for example, because you have a chance to pin a team down inside their 20, inside their 10. You go for that. You don't. The point doesn't matter sometimes, but the field position does.
Eddie, what's the latest on Brady? I know he wasn't at practice yesterday. Yep. I would imagine he'll play on the weekend. Just fill us in on him. And what have you seen from the guys behind the MOP battling for roster spots at the running back position?
Well, here's a news flash for you, Huss. I think Brady's going to make the team. I think he's just
breaking news.
Yeah, they're just being cautious with him. He's had a really good camp. If you remember last year, he was dinged up for most of camp, and I think it affected his start to the season. He had about 120 yards in his first 3 games last year, and I think it was just because he was shaking off a lot of the rust. So they're just being safe there. The guys behind them, it's interesting. Quentin Cooley, who I thought really popped out on Saturday's game, is a guy from Liberty University that the scouting department found. He's about 5'7", but 210, and he just runs over people. He's like a bowling ball out there. He caught a screen pass. He said he'd never caught a screen pass during his days at Liberty because he was just the guy they turned around and handed to 25 times a game. It's intriguing. He's an interesting prospect. Again, though, when you start a Canadian, do you have a room for a guy like that on your roster somehow? The other guy is Matthew Paterson, who's Canadian. The Bombers made a trade for him on the global draft day with Hamilton. a kid from the University of Alberta who had huge numbers with the Golden Bears. He didn't jump out as much as Cooley did in the game against Saskatchewan on Saturday, but runs an awful lot like Brady. He's been getting a lot of work this week with Brady not practicing the last couple of days. So I think we're going to see an awful lot of Paterson and Cooley Friday night in Regina, and maybe one of those guys can secure a job backing up Brady.
Eddie, as far as the defense goes, we don't need to get through the entire group, but I mean, is there a player or two that has kind of really showed up and showed out in training camp that, you know, will potentially be playing for a spot or a starting spot on the roster this weekend?
Well, I guess it would be no surprise if I said James Vaughters has looked really good. He's a veteran defensive end, so he's come exactly as advertised. But it's going to be interesting what he can give this team opposite Willie Jefferson, right? Maybe Willie doesn't get double teamed as much. I really like him. Jamal Woods and Devin Adams, two guys from last year, have had really good camps. Cam Lawson's just back practicing after a year off. Having him healthy could be massive. In the secondary, Marquise Bridges, it looks like he's got Terrell Ford's old job. The safety position's kind of out there still, with Brandon Alexander not playing anymore, and now an associate coach and an ambassador with the club. That job's wide open. And Jamal Parker's getting a lot of work. Cam Allen, who had an interception Saturday and had really good camp, hasn't practiced this week, so that's unfortunate because he had really slammed his foot in the door there. So that's another one that's kind of open too. I think this defense is going to be really good, Huss, because it's really deep and very talented. And even with the Terrell Ford leaving for Edmonton, I think they're going to have some good pieces in the secondary too.
Ed Tait with us from BlueBombers.com, wrapping up training camp, getting ready for the preseason finale, and then going into the bye week, which we'll talk about in a moment. Tell us about, I guess we'll get a depth chart tomorrow, but what should we expect to see from the Bombers lineup, and how do you think Mike O'Shea and the staff will approach this road game after playing a number of the vets and starters coming up in the first game? Yeah,
I'm not sure that I can read a whole lot into practice this week, but Chris Streveler's getting a lot of work, and he seems to be leading the first of the team period, which means he's probably going to start, and that's not going to surprise anybody. I think Zach Clara showed what he needed to do in last week's game, goes 10 of 13 for 80-some yards and looked really poised back there. So, I'm not sure he'll play at all, but maybe he makes the trip. But we're going to see a lot of Chris Streveler and the other quarterbacks behind him, and Terry Wilson and Chase Artopius, both who had pretty good games too. That's another job that's kind of interesting. Who gets the third spot? Who maybe sits on the practice roster? It's interesting because I asked Coach O'Shea at his availability today, Huss, about, for the second preseason game, do you build your roster a little bit differently if you have you don't have the answers at a spot yet? Like, do you make sure that you get a lot of work for your left guard because you don't have answers there? Do you even dress a Stanley Bryant if you're evaluating another tackle for down the road? And he said it's all part of it. There's a lot going on right now. They play Friday. They got to make their cuts Saturday. You've got to get guys to agree to go on the practice roster not too long after that. And that's an awful lot to carry into this final preseason game. So I would say that we're probably going to see a lot of guys that are on the bubble, a lot of guys that are those vacancies. Be a lot of people rotating through there to try to get some answers. So, it's funny, Huss. I've never been excited about a trip to Regina this much for a long time, and maybe that says something about how long this training camp's been going, because I can't wait to go and get this thing going and get it done and get to the real games.
Well, you think you're excited to get to Regina now. Just wait till next week when the Bombers aren't playing and the Canadian Football League kicks off. I mean, listen, it's a 9-team league, so it's going to happen to someone. Happens. It hasn't been for a while. So what happens next week for the Bombers? Like, are these guys going home like a normal bye week in the middle of the regular season? Are they allowed to practice? I mean, what happens next week? Because this is sort of uncharted territory for the squad.
Yeah, so the practice schedule hasn't been sent out yet. It's my understanding that they'll have a few days off, and that's usually what happens, and that you got to get these guys a chance to get housing and all that stuff too, because they've been in the dorms. But I would expect they're going to be on the field for a couple of days at least. And if they're not on the field, I'm not sure that anybody's going home because there's too much work to do to get ready for the opener. And, you can study film, you can do all kinds of stuff. You've got a new offensive coordinator. I'm sure they want to make sure that that's fine-tuned. And you're going to have a different starting quarterback in the opener because of that bogus suspension to Zach Collaros. So there's still a lot of things to do. And so a first week bye isn't necessarily a bad thing because it's almost like an extended training camp and that you can get things a little more fine-tuned before your first real game.
Is there are there CFLPA rules as to what you can and what you can't do during the bye? And does that hold true if you have a week 1 bye before you've even played a game?
Yeah, the rules are changed because for a week 1 bye just because of that. I know that later in the season, often Coach O'Shea will tell the guys, hey, you guys have gone 11 straight weeks or whatever it is. Take the break. If you want to go home, go home. I just think the rules are a little bit differently. And I know the PA, it's different that you're allowed to be a little bit more hands-on in a first week bye.
Well, that's a good thing because as you mentioned, I mean, you still have lots of questions. You don't really know anything until you see the live action in games that mean something. And, those buys are precious. I mean, they're valuable, especially, throughout the season with the wear and tear on these players. And not an ideal situation, I guess, to have the week 1 bye, but there are some angles that it could be beneficial. I guess the Bombers as a team and certainly as a coaching staff will try to get everything they can out of that week 1 bye to be ready to go in week 2 when they finally get out there, as you mentioned, without Zach Collaros. Yeah,
so I talked to Chris Strevler after practice today, and he said that he thought they had a really good week. The offense did, and, they're still getting used to Jason Hogan's offense, but there's been real good signs of progress in the last few days. The offense is really clicking, so that's a good sign. But you need to carry that momentum into the bye week, and then after that, it's going to be pretty hard next week for Bomber fans, but for all these guys too, to have to sit around and watch other games on television and not be a part of it, and then have your season opener here against a division rival with Zach suspended. It's unfortunate, but again, I was talking to Wade Miller today, and the ticket sales are really hopping for the home opener. So, people are still jacked up about this football team.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, the players might not be as busy as they normally would be in week 1, but I know that the gang down there, Phil, in the building will be because people are excited about the upcoming season. Great crowd last week for a Saturday game, preseason game, Ed, and it's time to get going, although not quite time as much as everyone would like to see whether this team can do something seemingly that a decade ago would have seemed inconceivable, but go to their 6th straight Grey Cup, and of course, a very special year with lots of preparation and planning going on for the Grey Cup right here in Winnipeg at Princess Auto Stadium.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are still sour about losing 3 straight. And, of course, everybody is. You get that close, you want to finish the deal. But to your point, getting there 5 straight times is pretty special. I think getting there a 6th straight time and winning it at home would help people forget the 3 losses in a row. That would be a dramatic finish. And I think a lot of people would sign up for that, myself included. So, again, there's a lot of momentum with this franchise still. 3 straight years of leading the league in attendance, and they're going to try to sell out more games this year. It's just a cool place to be, and it's still a good football team out there, trust me, and I think they're going to be right in the fight of the West Division.
No doubt about that. Eddie, always great having you on the program. I saw you had our guy Sergio on the huddle earlier this week. Let us tell people about that, and fill people in on the content that you guys will have with the content team and at bluebombers.com as we look to see who's making the team and this final preseason game in Saskatchewan.
Well, first of all, with Sergio, he's all over our content because he's a jewel, man. He's a gem. He loves doing everything. He smiles like crazy. You got to talk to him at the thing last week. And so we had him on yesterday. I had a script all written out, and 40 minutes in, Josh, our producer, is telling me, hey, we're 40 minutes in. We haven't even got to the second segment yet. So we just open it up to fan questions. We try to do it every Tuesday at 3 on the Huddle page. Yesterday we were live on X2. the huddle page on YouTube, excuse me. And we had good traffic. You guys are always gracious to send some of your viewers over to us. Training camp's hard to put these shows together because guys are in meetings and the times get changed all along. So Sergio kind of admitted that the special teams meeting, or his part of it, is pretty short. So he was able to sneak out, and he's a prince. If you have a chance, check it out on our on the Blue Bombers YouTube page, because he's entertainment times 1,000.
And of course, between X and Twitter, everything the Bomber fans are going to need to know before, during, and after the preseason game.
Yeah, we got the best content team in the league. I'm not ashamed to say it. Our guys crank out stuff like nobody else. We've got on all kinds of platforms, video, podcasts, the show we do with Sergio. It's everywhere, and written. Some of the words aren't bad too on this website. So. We try our best, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So I hope that's shown in all the stuff we crank out.
Well, the final training camp report is up at bluebombers.com. Lots on Cam Lawson, who we talked about a little earlier, and much more heading into Saskatchewan. Eddie, thanks so much for doing this. Can't wait to get this thing going for real, but we, like the players and the team, are going to have to be a little patient, but we'll look forward to seeing how these battles continue in the final preseason game this weekend. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, Huss. Appreciate you having me on. Have a good day.
At Ed Tait WFC on X, and of course, bluebombers.com for all Ed's content. And make sure to check out the huddle on YouTube. Sergio Castillo, if Sergio is in something, it is must watch for Blue Bomber fans. That I think we can all agree on. Sea Bears in action tonight. Coach Mike Taylor is going to join us a little bit later on. But Murat coming up in about 5 minutes. Got to thank Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Speaking of the Bombers, of course, Princess Auto Stadium, the home of the blue and gold, and the home on Saturday of Canada's national women's soccer team. Make sure you get out there and celebrate Des Scott and her incredible contribution to soccer in Canada and here in Winnipeg. Link in the description for tickets. Contest at winnipegsportstalk.com as well if you want to win some. Princess Auto, in addition to supporting so many aspects of our sports scene and Winnipeg Sports Talk, is the place where you'll find the best deals and the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. 3 locations in Winnipeg and Manitoba. And, of course, you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Got to thank our friends at Aikens Lake for their support and let them know we'll be seeing them soon. God, this gorgeous weather and taking a look at the river makes me that much more excited to get out to Aikens Lake. It truly is a jewel of the province, a fly-in fishing lodge where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, with world-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality from the Aikens team. Go to aikenslake.com and find out everything you need to know for options on the 2025 fishing season, availabilities, and more. And of course, if you want more about what the Aikens experience is all about, check out all of their social channels over at Aikens Lake. And big cheers to our pals over at F Apparel, who just finished celebrated 15 years as the leading place in Manitoba for custom men's clothing. And with grads and weddings just around the corner, that was a great time to get down to F for custom suits, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, the best selection of men's accessories around. They do have a great grad deal right now. If you have a 2025 grad, they'll throw in a shirt and tie with the purchase of any suit. And, of course, they've got a great discount for wedding parties when the fellas get their suits for the big day at F Apparel as well. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown. Check them out online, and you can make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, let's get Reem back into here. Reem, always great chopping it up with Eddie. And I haven't watched the entire huddle yet, but I did catch some of it. Let's face it, when Sergio is on, you got to check it out. And it's one of those things where you get going and you won't stop until it's over. He's such a beauty. We got to get him back on the show soon.
Yeah, 100%. And was it him who had the frozen Cheetos on pizza? That was his what he unearthed earlier on the huddle. So Curious what they cooked up at the Blue Bombers channel. Ed's background looking really strong, and I don't know if you noticed, the way the camera saw the lights made all this like wavy action behind him. So some people are commenting on that in the chat. So it looks great. Looking forward to all the content that they have at bluebombers.com and on their YouTube channel. But also looking forward to preseason. And yes, this week 1 bye. Look, someone's got to have a week 1 bye in an odd team league. It's the Bombers' turn. I'm sure they rotate throughout. And it is interesting that they're looking to change some of the ruling on how you can act during a bye when it's on week 1. Because, not great timing, but I am looking forward to the home opener on June 12th.
Remo, we're going to get into the Jet topics. Again, just breaking news. If you just popped in, we mentioned this just off the top of our conversation with Ed. But Captain Adam Lowry underwent successful hip surgery yesterday. It's anticipated his rehab will take 5 to 6 months, and he's expected to make a full recovery. So we certainly wish Adam the best, but that was, I'd heard that he was potentially going to be having that surgery. I wasn't aware that we're talking potentially half a year to recover for it. Well, he and his buddy Josh Morrissey are going to have a very different summer this year with rehab coming out of injuries coming out of the playoffs. There's also a piece that I know some people are talking about in chat. Our pal Paul Edmonds has his piece up at cgob.com. Silence deafening on extension for Jets Ehlers. And I think I will summarize it by saying Paul does not seem as optimistic as some are that there might be return interest from Ehlers to stick around. There certainly is from the hockey club. But Paul says he doesn't believe that this is happening, and I believe he'll say this. The problem is, in reading the tea leaves, it's become painfully clear to many that Ehlers has no interest in re-signing with the Jets. I hope that's not true. We'll talk about it with Murat coming up in just a minute. Morad, I believe, is actually ready to jump on with us. So I'll tell you that your Prairie Toyota dealers who are presenting this segment want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Quality that means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load, and it's backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. Take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear. And can we talk about how good the Tundra looks? Anywhere it goes, it's turning heads. From $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.19% APR with $66.99 down. Hybrid available. Visit shoptoyota.ca. Let's welcome in Murat from The Athletic to the program. Murat, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, Huss. Thanks for having me. Just responding, I guess, to the Adam Lowry surgery news. And that's kind of the big one on my radar today. I've been digging through some of the other guys that have had that kind of hip surgery and the like. Brad Marchand had both his hips done and was a point-per-game player not too long after, though he said he really didn't feel good for a while. It's a pretty massive little piece of news here today, Huss.
I'll say, we were just getting into Bomber talk, and then all of a sudden that comes in, and often you'll have guys that'll be dealing with something or will have to get something done after the year. Certainly, in the case of Josh Morrissey, who was injured right at the end, but for Adam to play the way that he did throughout the season and the playoffs and then immediately go and get hip surgery, it was kind of jarring. And then you see the rehab time for a surgery like this, and it certainly opens up some big questions for the beginning of next season when it comes to their captain and leader.
Yeah, they're talking about, the Jets release talks about an expected recovery time in 5 to 6 months. And what is this? This is May 28th. So essentially the start of June. It could be, towards the end of this calendar year when he makes his return. The Jets already likely need to upgrade at second line center to do without their third line center. That puts a pretty big hole in some things. Maybe you hope that this, if he needs to have surgery, he gets surgery and all that sort of stuff. But maybe there's a recognition that teams need to peak at the playoffs, and what's a November game compared to being ready to go and having all your energy and rehab done in advance of the most important time of the year. All I can think of, though, is it's a pretty substantial hole in the Jets lineup to start the season, and kind of puts extra pressure on their offseason to either mitigate it or just to sort of set the expectations that, hey, a pretty important piece will be gone to start next year.
Yeah, listen, I would imagine, based on what we saw in the last post-trade deadline in the playoffs, that Morgan Barron will likely have the opportunity to maybe, play a bigger role in the Lowry shoes, if you will, for any time that he's out. But Murat, we'd already talked about the fact that the Winnipeg Jets would really like to upgrade at the 2C position, and then you take away the 2/3C. It almost puts, in my opinion, it certainly adds to the intrigue as to what Kevin Cheveldayoff might do in and around the draft when it comes to potentially making trades. Because as we've seen before, it's kind of difficult to fill those holes in free agency when you're in Winnipeg.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. Free agency hasn't traditionally been kind to the Jets. You look around the rumor mill, and not necessarily just the Jets rumor mill, but people are saying, well, look at Sam Bennett. What a perfect playoff player he is. What a great 2C he'd be in a lot of different situations. And rest assured, the Winnipeg Jets are not signing Sam Bennett this offseason. That's not the type of way that Winnipeg solves that problem. So does it become a trade? That's interesting. They'd have the 28th overall pick. They'd have some of the same prospects like a Jaeger or a Barlow or maybe Lambert that they may have gone shopping with at the trade deadline and the like. Could that be a way? And then, as I had spoken with Kevin Cheveldayoff, it was Cheveldayoff, myself, and Mike McIntyre at the Free Press in Denver, and the three of us had just a really long conversation in, I think it was January, and he said that, well, you know what, we're in fairly frequent communication with the Jonathan Taves camp. That's not a number 2 center, but it could be a number 3 or number 4 center that helps Morgan Barron become a number 3 center, depending on how all things shake out as well. So, it puts Winnipeg in a tough spot to start the year, and maybe puts an extra microscope on all of it.
Murat, earlier this week, you had a piece at The Athletic, Winnipeg Jet offseason priorities, clarity on Nikolai Ehlers, seek term with RFAs. Ehlers is certainly the number one topic right now around the Winnipeg Jet streets. We heard Chris Johnson earlier this week on TSN report that he believes there's a mutual desire to get something done, but his quote was, not sure that where that is exceeding the Jets' comfort zone in doing that. And then someone that's quite close to the team, and Paul Edmonds, as we just mentioned, writing that, he feels that he doesn't feel like there's a want of Ehlers to return to the Jets. I know you're on this, trying to get as much information as possible. What do we know right now that the World Championships are done, about how Ehlers and his agent will be proceeding, and what are the chances that he doesn't get to July 1st because he has a new deal to keep him a Jet for life?
Yeah, I can't sit here and say that I know, with a capital, I know where this is going. I can say that I have been communicating with lots of folks around the situation. The people who have not told me what's going on directly, or would be Kevin Cheveldayoff, Nikolai Ehlers, and Nikolai Ehlers' agent. So those are some important people that can speak for themselves, that may not feel the way that everyone else feels. And I think that the way that most others feel is that that Ehlers is likely to hit free agency and to see what that offers him. I know Kevin Cheveldayoff talked about a Jet for life type of offer. I know Chris Johnston's report talked about mutual interest, and rest assured, the relationship is good. Nikolai Ehlers loves his teammates. He loves the city. There's all sorts of great memories here. He's just had one of the best seasons of his life playing in Winnipeg. So it would behoove everybody to talk it through and figure it out. But my guess is that what Winnipeg believes is a Jet for life type of offer and seems fair is the type of offer that can be beat in an unrestricted free agency market, especially with the cap going up as it is. So it may be, I tell you that I don't know, and I can't say that with any fact, or else I'd report it and I'd write the story. But I guess what I'm telling you is that my belief or expectation, just based on what I've heard so far, continues to be what it's been for more or less the last year. Which is that I expect it's more likely that he goes to free agency than he re-signs with Winnipeg.
Murat, I brought this up with Ken, and I'll hit you with it. We know the significant deals that were given to Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, or Connor Hellebuck, I should say, the identical 8.5 by 7 deals. If the Jets, well, put it this way, the concept is the Jets putting 8.5 by 7 on the table for Nikolai Ehlers. Does the Ehlers camp say no, or do you think that might be beyond the comfort zone of the Winnipeg Jets to offer, or might that get a deal done?
I mean, it's a great question. I start with my own opinion, so I'll get that out of the way, and then I'll try to think from everybody's perspective. But $8.5 million after the cap has gone up as it has is less of a percentage of the salary cap maximum than it was when Hellebuck and Scheifele signed it. And I think that that's actually a really good number as a result, because you don't have to send the message, because the Jets clearly, their number one center, their top forward is Mark Scheifele. They don't have to send the message that Ehlers is more important or upsets the salary hierarchy. Even at $8.5 million, the same dollar figure, it's a smaller percentage of the cap hit. You can actually go all the way up to 9.2 before you reach the same percentage of the cap max that Scheifele got back in the day. So for me, as long as that number starts with an 8, I don't think you're firing any shots across the bow of Mark Scheifele or anything else, just because of where the cap has gone. If, Neil Pionk got a deal that's more expensive than Josh Morrissey, that's the cap going up. It's not Josh Morrissey being somehow less important than Neil Pionk is, right? Hopefully everybody involved has that sort of frame of mind. I would expect the Jets are capable of offering 8.5. If they're not, then I don't think that it's fair to call it a Jet for life type of offer. If you go to the various analytical contract projections, you see stuff like 8.5, 8.2, mid-8s. I think that's a reasonable, it's a reasonable dollar figure for him on the open market. Completely it is. There's even a chance he gets 9, but I'm expecting it to be in the 8s. So if the Jets, I would expect them to be able to offer that. If they can't, then again, I don't think that's a Jet for life type offer. And if Ehlers receives 8.5 as an offer from the Jets and goes shopping for more in unrestricted free agency, then maybe he didn't want to be here after all, because there's a little part of me that goes, after a certain point, what's the difference between 8.5 and 8.8, right? It's about city, it's about life, it's about opportunity. If you're starting at 8.5, maybe he can get more, and power to him for if that is the case, right? We're talking with theoretical numbers. But if you get that high and that is a real offer, then it really becomes about whether or not he wants to stay.
As we've talked about this almost on a daily basis, I lean back to something that you said last week that has really resonated with me, Morad, in that, as we all try to dig in, okay, is this going to get it done? Is there going to be more playing time? Is he frustrated because of his ice time in the past, despite being on a first-place hockey team? The one thing that I keep remembering from what you said last week is we've heard a lot of these takes. We've never heard anything from Ehlers or from his agent. And it would not have been out of place or, to maybe hear some rumblings if he was disgruntled or whatever, to maybe come out in some ways. And that's really never happened, which makes this, I think, is interesting a conversation and maybe a next month that we're going to have, because at no point have we ever really had the opportunity to peel the curtain back and really understand what are the most important things to Nikolai Ehlers when it comes to making this next decision.
Yeah, and that is so important to keep in mind here as the various insiders, as the various reporters, even as you're critiquing in your mind, the things that I'm telling you, right? It's the single most important person in all of this is Nikolai Ehlers. And then beyond that, his agent would know the details. Kevin Cheveldayoff would know the details. And until they speak, we're just going in my case, I'm going off secondhand information, right? If it's not him, then it's everyone kind of around the situation. And it may be my belief that the type of opportunity he's got over the years has not left Ehlers particularly satisfied, and that there have been moments of discussion around that. But if Ehlers doesn't say so, then, if Ehlers comes out tomorrow and says that's not the case, well, he's kind of more important than any secondhand type of situation around it. And I think that probably, because we've seen this go a whole bunch of different ways, right? Last summer, Brendan Dillon was open and honest and really transparent in a really refreshing way, saying, hey, I wish that they would have negotiated with me more. And you got the sense, okay, well, this isn't a relationship that's going to continue. Ehlers has taken a different approach. His agent, I've chatted with his agent, and the overall tone is just, hey, listen, we want to do this privately. We want to keep this, and, we're not going to do this through the media. And that's completely fair. Ehlers has told me, whenever we talk about it, he never talks about the specifics of the dollars or the anything like that. It's I don't know where this is going to go yet. He keeps it to himself. And it's only when we get to talking about the teammates or Winnipeg that he'll then open up about how much Winnipeg has meant to him and how much his teammates mean to him and how much it's meant to go chasing the same dreams with the same group of guys for so long. But that's not a promise of a contract one way or the other. And to be honest with you, I respect both approaches. The Brendan Dillon approach of just saying plainly in public how things are, and the Nikolai Ehlers approach of keeping it until it's news or isn't news. I think both have class in them. And I think Nikolai Ehlers is a classy person who's approached this in a way that never became a distraction for his teammates or anything like that either.
As we'll continue to talk about this and get any shred of reports or anything about it, we'll know when we know. But if it does not go in the Jets' favor and Ehlers signs elsewhere, Morad, how does that change Kevin Cheveldayoff's off-season to-do list with such a massive hole in the top six and on that top power play?
Yeah, it gives him shopping around money. That would be the clear of it. Like, in that piece that you cited that I have up earlier this week, I think I write that, you could keep Ehlers, Sandberg, and Velarde long-term, as long as the three of them combined don't go above $23 million. I think that's a reasonable ask. So without Ehlers, if we're talking about 8.5, whatever else it's going to be, okay, suddenly Winnipeg can afford to go shopping. The problem is the UFA market is not kind to the Jets as a general rule. I think the only UFAs on the team last year were Eric Comrie, who has a long-standing relationship with the team, obviously, and Colin Miller, who was acquired at the trade deadline last year and would have had some familiarity. He would have gotten to see how he was treated, and even though he didn't get a lot of minutes, clearly he valued the team and the opportunity enough to re-sign. You don't get big fish here. And so how does that change things? That's why I keep mentioning Jonathan Toews' name, in part because Cheveldayoff has spoken openly about him, and in part because there's city history and a good relationship there. But that's not problem-solving money. That's, a hopeful play at a leader who has cup pedigree and who comes with his own series of concerns and health and all that other stuff, right? Like, that's not a sure thing. And that might lend credence to your suggestion that there'd be some interesting trade discussions this summer, all of that sort of stuff. Because you can't be the team that pays Hellebuck 8.5 and Scheifele 8.5 and just won the President's Trophy and thinks of yourself as a contender and enter the season with that much unused cap space, or finish the season with that much unused cap space. There has to be a plan. And to Cheveldayoff's credit, I'm sure the types of contingencies available to him with and without Ehlers, I'm sure that's been on his radar for at least a year now.
Earlier today on the program, we I'm not sure if you caught this. It was a report out of Montreal by one of the Habs beat guys that Brock Nelson nixed a trade at the deadline that was consummated between Kevin Cheveldayoff and Lou Lamoriello, exercising his modified no trade, which was 16 teams, and the Jets were on that list. Knowing that now, Murat, does that change at all? Like, assuming that is legit, and I have no reason not to believe it. We had heard some rumblings of that, not maybe a direct report as it was put out. Does that change at all the way we look back to the trade deadline? And might that be a hard lesson for Kevin Cheveldayoff in his situation, that going the road of the previous year and striking a month before the deadline for the like of a Sean Monahan, or potentially taking care of it at a cost in this offseason, might be preferable to waiting as they did to get the best player they thought was available and then not being able to get the job done because the player had the rights to not accept a trade to Winnipeg?
Yeah, I don't have information that confirms that, but I believe it. And it's because of information that I do have. And I get a little bit stubborn about the Brock Nelson conversation because it's there in my writing from the day of. The Winnipeg Jets thought that they had acquired Brock Nelson. That's there. I didn't write that as an opinion. That's, what I take to be a fact. And how does that come to be? Well, as I understand it and have been told multiple times, Brock Nelson was in fact open to Canada. So if that's true and he was open to Canada and Winnipeg thought they had a deal consummated, that leaves a whole bunch of cloudy information. If it is also true that he nixed the deal, then kind of my pet theory, which is that Colorado emerged late and Colorado was Nelson's preferred destination, that might actually be what happened. And I can't tell you that I know, but I know that Winnipeg thought that they had acquired Brock Nelson, and I've been plain about that fact. If he nixed it via his NTC, that would fall in line with that. I would love to hear what Cheveldayoff has to say about it as well. But the Jets were far down that road. They believed that they had got him. And that only works for me if either Colorado swoops in very late in the process, or if Colorado had already been there but didn't make an offer palatable to the Islanders such that it would even get to Nelson's awareness until very late in the process. Because I had been told previously that Nelson would be open to Canada, and you only nix a Winnipeg deal, I think, in that situation if the Colorado deal is on the table and you're aware of it.
No, I think that is a great point. Again, it does sort of shine a light on the challenges of doing business here in the PEG as opposed to Florida or Vegas or some of these spots where you've got an advantageous tax situation and obviously real contending teams, although the Jets certainly were as well. Hey, one other topic that you covered in the piece this week that I wanted to ask you about. Right now, we're in a situation where we're watching 4 teams play. You've got the Edmonton Oilers led by McDavid and Draisaitl, and then you got the Florida Panthers, who are as playoff style a team as we've got in the National Hockey League. And when we talk about free agents, I mean, the name that Sam Bennett, a guy that has all of, I think, 55 points is his career high, but has absolutely dominated in the playoffs now for 3 straight years, potentially earning up to $10 million as an unrestricted free agent if he does decide to leave Florida for big money. You talked about the roster balance of the Winnipeg Jets, and again, we watch this through the lens of the Stanley Cup playoffs and what it takes to win and move on. And at the end of the day, beat a team like Florida. Where are you at on the question you asked, do the Jets need more shift disturbers? And maybe not necessarily talking about offense and scoring goals as much as a different type of player that can come in and be dominant at this time of year.
Yeah, what I'm not talking about is Brandon Tanev or Luke Shen. And to their credit as players in their roles, they have unique styles. But when I talk about a shift disturber or a playoff type of player, they have to be able to contribute on the offensive side as well. I'm talking about talented truculence more than I am guys that'll just run players' faces through a wall. You saw the impact, and you probably hated the impact of a Braden Shen, for example, in the playoffs this year. You go to Florida and you see it's not just Sam Bennett. He might be number 5 in the line, right? It's Matthew Tkachuk, it's Sam Reinhart, it's Brad Marchand, like even guys that like whose names really only emerge at playoff time, like Ichula Starainen. I don't know if I pronounce his name correctly. There's a lot of people on that team who play such a hard brand of hockey and contribute. And I think that just a simple fact of Winnipeg hockey is that a lot of their biggest difference makers are on the like finesse side of things, you might say. It's not that they're not hard workers. They're extremely hard workers, but Josh Morrissey, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers if he's around again, Cole Perfetti, like there are notes missing from that group in terms of their ability to physically take over the middle of the ice and bully their way through the playoffs. I'm not advocating for the Jets to overcorrect because it's hard as heck to win a President's Trophy. Like you go back over the last few years, Winnipeg has won more games than most teams overall. They've clearly got a formula that works when Adam Lowry is healthy and that shutdown line is working and then the top scorers are doing their thing. But I think that it is a real lack, a one or two player lack, not a rebuild the entire thing, where you could, whether it's, it's not Matthew Tkachuk because those players don't become available. It's not Dustin Byfuglien because he's once in a generation. The Jets do need, I think, a little bit more of that. Sam Bennett would be a great variety. I liked Andrew Mangiapane for that, especially in Calgary. He'll be a cheaper UFA in relative to Bennett later this summer. You might call it a Niederreiter plus, a Nemesnikov plus. It is a note that Winnipeg, I think, is missing. And it's definitely an old school playoff note. The one thing I insist upon, I do not want to become the face of this movement if we're talking about fourth line players or third pairing players, because I think that they've got to be able to hurt you on the score sheet as well.
Well, for sure. And listen, that's a big reason why Murat, I mean, we talk about the Bennetts and the potential money that would be available to him on the free agent market. And to use your term, that talented truculence might be the most scarce asset in the NHL. Why every team in the league would kill to get a Tom Wilson, for instance. I mean, there's just not that many players. There's a ton of really talented players. There's a ton of guys that get tough, but I mean, are in that other category you mentioned. It's the combination of the two that while it might not pop on the regular season scoring statistics, it seems to get more important round after round after round once we're playing for the Stanley Cup in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think part of the truth of hockey is there's a difference between what I want to call perfect hockey, which can often be ugly, but perfect hockey being where players fight so hard and sacrifice so much of their well-being for the middle of the ice, where on a playoff team from first to fourth line, everybody's back checking like their life depends on it. Everybody's selling out in the middle of the ice to block shots. There's a desperation level that you can't keep up for 82 games, right? That it is when it's the playoffs, certain avenues to the goal, I think, do become harder to get by. There's still rushes, there's still counterattacks. You see that from what Florida's doing to Carolina as well. And I think that players who can get to the middle of the ice in other ways become more important too. And players who can get to the middle of the ice when everybody's selling out, I think that is a meaningful quality. And I think that it's been true of the Jets for a little while now that, some of their most elite players do a pretty good job of that, but they're not literally the best in the world at it. And some of Winnipeg's players who do a really good job of getting in the net front, like a Nito Niederreiter type, he's going to go cold offensively for stretches enough as well. And somehow, some way, you'd like to see the Jets sort of just have both notes available to them so that they have a diverse series of ways to hurt you come playoff time.
Morad, another part of the article is another must-win NHL draft. People can read that. There's a number of aspects, and we'll have a month to really get to the draft. But I will just ask you this. Based on what we know right now, regardless of the Ehlers situation, the need for a 2C, the need for upgrades at a couple positions, the want for more of what we just talked about, what do you think the chances are that the Jets actually make their selection in the first round this year?
I mean, I want to say well over half, because it's rare for, like, just historically, it's been rare for them to move their first round pick kind of in the build-up to draft. It's historically been their play to move it at the trade deadline. So I want to say that probably they make that pick. At the same time, I can make an argument that they should trade that pick. And it's this, like, if you go back to 2018, Paul Stastny, first round pick out the door, Stastny doesn't re-sign. 2019, Kevin Hayes, first round pick out the door, Hayes doesn't re-sign. 2023, Sean Monahan, first round pick out the door, Monahan doesn't re-sign. And they would have traded a first round pick for Brock Nelson, who it seems like is most likely to sign in Minnesota. So, like, they're more than happy to move first round picks in the name of solving their second line center problem. If they do it this summer, and if they do it before this draft, and if it's for a second line center, ideally it's for somebody with term on their deal, so they're not doing it 3 more times in the next 5 years. If they can pull off a trade like that, it will save them future assets and get them the player that they're interested in. That seems like a tough proposition. But Huss, we talk about Winnipeg struggling as a UFA destination. We also know that hurts them twice. One way at UFA time, where they don't get the players to re-sign or to re-up if they're recent acquisitions like those centers were. But it hurts them again a second way at trade deadline time, when they have to ship out more assets. So if they are able to land on a trade at this stage where there is term available, like Dubois was supposed to be way back when, I think it would behoove them to make it, because it means that they'd be able to hold on to first round picks in later years. If it's a player 1 year away from UFA, then we're going, oh my goodness, the same dance all over again. It's a hole that's going to leak until they plug it.
Yeah, listen, I'm right there with you with your the latter argument. I mean, this is a team that has been always wanting to draft and develop their prospects and bring them in and have that term, which is great. But where this team is right now, with the way they've grown over the last few seasons, with the window open with some of the players that are going to be on the other side of 30, to me, there is a real sense of urgency to figure this out, to find a solution right now, hopefully in advance of training camp, so you can come in a very different situation than they've been in the last few years. And the job after the season starts for the general manager is not that huge, hard to plug a hole in the middle of your top 6. It's elsewhere on some assets that might be more easily replaceable or changed as you get into the season and closer to the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, that it also, to explore the idea more, it leans into Cheveldayoff's wheelhouse a little bit. Like the pro scouting team that's, got Dubois out of Laine and Roslovic, and then got Velarde and Iafallo and Kupari and the pick out of Dubois, and added Nemesnikov and Niederreiter cheaply. They're doing a pretty good job when backed into a corner, and really needing to maybe acquire players that aren't number one on everybody else's radar, but are good fits in Winnipeg. And what if they were proactive about it this summer? What if they leaned into it without needing to trade a Dubois away, but they went into the draft shopping a little bit? Presumably, if they've had such a good run, it's from a repeatable skill set, identifying good players on their second contracts with some time to grow. We know term is a really important thing for the Winnipeg Jets, and I don't know that they would have had the assets for a Dylan Cousins that Ottawa picked up at the deadline or what have you, but like that might have been more of a Winnipeg Jet type of long-term acquisition in terms of the player being young and having years left. If they make that swing, and they succeed at it, you almost believe, based on recent track record, that it will be a win. Cheveldayoff has, this year was quieter, but his last 3 or 4 years have been really strong in that regard. And you almost hope that they go out front foot that way, maybe swinging a little bit heading into the offseason.
Folks, get over to The Athletic and check out the latest from Murat. Very extensive offseason piece on the Winnipeg Jets. The title of it is The Offseason Priorities. Get clarity on Nikolai Ehlers, seek term with RFAs, and much, much more. Murat, great chat as always. Hey, before we go, I'm moving off of hockey for a moment, which I know is normally our topic, but you were a guy that appreciates soccer, appreciates Canadian greatness. Just a quick thought on Desiree Scott from Winnipeg, finishing up her international career with Canada's women's national team on home soil, and what should be a really special game Saturday afternoon at Princess Auto Stadium.
Yeah, one, devastated to be missing it, not in the city right now, and that sucks. Two, Desiree Scott, 2012, what is it? Was it her left thigh? The goal line clearance. That moment for me ripples generations. Like, that is the start. That bronze medal is the start of what can they do. It's the start of belief in Canadian soccer, and the women got to it well before the men got to it. That team was a really special group. I think it was Diana Matheson who you had on earlier. Like, there are so many great stories throughout this entire country in soccer that start with that moment. I know Desiree Scott's career goes well beyond one goal line clearance, but it was critical. It helped cement that generation. And if people are out there just being like, hey, I hear this name a lot, and what's the deal? Just go. Just wrap yourself up in that history. A Winnipeg woman made Winnipeg and Canada like a soccer, like a place you could really, really believe in. And there's so many other stories with that national team as well. And yeah, I just word vomiting at you, but it really comes out of a place of sadness to be missing it this Saturday.
No, it's going to be great. I can't wait for it. And, we're going to have Des on in the next couple of days on the program as well before the big game on the weekend. Murat, thanks so much for doing this, buddy. Appreciate you having you popping by. Great article. And lots to talk about for this hockey club as we get closer to the draft. And, of course, July 1st.
Never a dull day in Jetsland, man. Happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
Enjoy your travels, pal. There's Murat Atesh joining us here on WST. Hey, if you do want to pick up Canada soccer gear, Royal Sports is the spot for that. An incredible selection of Canada soccer gear, which is available, and you might want to get all suited up to get down and support the Nats and Desiree Scott on Saturday. We will have some great Canada merchandise to give away as well, so pay attention to the contest page at Winnipeg Sports Talk. And, of course, Royal has much more than that, though. I mean, new bomber gear and soccer, baseball, softball, bikes, tennis, you name it. We've got this gorgeous weather. Make the most of it with the trip down to Royal Sports. We'll see whether the Canes can survive tonight. They have the Florida Panthers at home tonight. We'll get to that in the lines in a minute with Patty, but Boston Pizza is the place to be for all your playoff action throughout the Cup final. Make sure to check out that amazing playoff menu with so many new great additions to the BP options. And, of course, you can also get it hot and fast to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
Day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, there is, listen, this is beer drinking weather. I would say that for sure. Check out that Little Brown Jug coming up. All right, we've got Mike Taylor, head coach of the Sea Bears, coming up. But right now, a reminder that tonight we are back, WST Poker Series at Coolbet, 8:30 p.m. We will get going. $100 bounty on my head, Michael Remis's head. Everybody invited, all the regulars, ESTers that missed it. The only difference is when you're in tournaments and looking, just put in WST, you'll see the tournament. Pat Gregoire from Coolbet joins us right now for a quick look at the lines and who we like in the Memorial. Patty, what's going on?
Yeah, you got me all sorts of fired up. Poker's back. We've been without it for a little while now, Huss. I know I don't I know I'm not able to dip my toes into the poker foray, but I know you guys always have a lot of fun, and people have been asking for it, whether it's in the Discord, on the WST chats, on Twitter, you name it. People have been begging for it. So no need to wait anymore. It goes down tonight. I'm looking forward to it.
Cannot wait for it. It's going to be a great night. Throw the hockey game on the tube, get into a little poker. We'll be paying attention to what's happening on ASD tonight as well. Panthers, minus 115 favorite tonight. The Hurricanes, minus 102. Interesting that the Panthers are a favorite in this game after being a road dog in the first two games of this series. But, getting Reinhart back, getting Mikkola back. It's funny, the line hasn't moved, actually. I do like the Panthers tonight. And I know Jake has already thrown up, I believe, ride with Huss for tonight, which is the Panthers to win and OKC to cover 8.5. I think they might just steamroll Minnesota like they did Denver in Game 7 of the last. So check the combo cards for that. And, of course, you've got some great exclusives, including Pat Mayo's weekly boost. We're going to get to Victor Hovland, boosted up to 35-1 right now to win the Memorial Tournament. Wednesdays, we love to hit the golf patty. By the way, great job calling lacrosse all year for TSN. Got a chance to see you doing the final game. Watch the entire second half. That Buffalo team's a wagon.
Oh, yeah.
Saskatchewan hung in there. But anyways, great season. But now what we love in advance of next week's Canadian Open, they're at Jack's Place, the Memorial. And once again, we have an insanely low line on Scotty Scheffler, plus 280. And then everybody else, Xander Schauffele starting at 14-1. Where are you liking for some outrights for the tourney this week?
I start my card with the guy that you talked about, Victor Hovland. He's 33-1 if you just look in the outrights. But if you go to Pat Mayo's weekly boost, as you mentioned, you can get him at 35-1, the best number out there in the market, bar none. I think his 33-1 is even the best market out there, but you might as well take that extra juice and get it up to 35-1. He's won here. You mentioned it back in 2023, finished T15 last year. But since the Valspar, when he won that tournament kind of out of nowhere, he's been pretty solid. The numbers speak for it. 3rd in approach, 12th in tee to green, and 10th overall putting in his last 5 events since that Valspar tournament. I think this is a course, obviously, has proven in the past that he can play well here. Back in 2023, he visited the prison that Shawshank Redemption was filmed in and won the tournament. He went back this time. So a good omens, try to bring back the vibes. I know Victor Hovland's a little bit of a weird brain, but I think this could be a spot, no doubt, that he could win. At that 33-1 number as well, I absolutely love Corey Connors here. This is a course you don't have to be an absolute bomber off the tee, but you have to be accurate, and ball striking reigns supreme. There's not many better players on tour right now at striking the ball than Corey Connors. Huss, I don't think we're giving enough credit for how good and how consistent Corey Connors has been this season. In the last 13 events on tour this year, he's made the cut 12 times. He's finished inside the top 25 9 times, inside the top 10 5 times, and finished top 5 twice. He's 3rd in the field tee to green, 3rd in driving accuracy, 10 in approach, and 15 in putting over the last 8 tournaments. And putting, everyone talks about all the time. Well, this guy can't putt. He can't close out events. His flat stick has been great this year. It's been very solid. He is gaining strokes with his flat stick in the entire year. So at him, at this number, in this field, I love him at this golf course. And then wrapping things up, this might be a little bit stolen valor for you, because I know you've had this guy on your card quite a bit over the last couple of years. But Matthew Fitzpatrick, 50-1. I don't really have the analytics, the numbers, the advanced numbers to prove it here. But if you just watch the way that he has played the last couple of events, he is on track to get back on track. He's T23 at the Truist, and then he ended up finishing T5 at the PGA Championship. He has been great here at Muirfield Village, though. Finished inside the top 10 3 times out of the 5 times he has been here. Finished T5 in 2024 last year and T9 in 2023. So at 50 to 1, I thought the number was too good. And another guy I'm going to support as well, 55 to 1 for Keegan Bradley. I think this is a golf course that fits his play very well. And let's not forget, before you know it, Ryder Cup is going to be down the line. He doesn't want to just be a captain. He wants to be a captain's player. A win here would do a lot for Keegan Bradley.
Yeah, no, I love the listen, Keegan's been awesome and really consistent, and you're exactly right. I mean, he's looking to take any doubt about whether he should be on the team and just make it himself, and we'll see what that means for the captaincy of the Ryder. I'm with you. I'm jumping on the PME boost in the exclusives and getting Vic to 35 to 1, which is just a great number you're not going to find anywhere else. And listen, I think Ludwig Oberg, our guy, speaking of stolen valor, taking one of your guys, he's 25 to 1, world-class player, can go toe-to-toe with everyone. If we're looking at somebody to take advantage maybe of an off-rounder to a Scotty Scheffler, if that hopefully happens, I think Ludwig is a guy. Probably my favorite bet, if you're looking for something to use the 30% profit boost at Coolbet, is going to be Pat Cantlay, top 10 at plus 140. The guy is automatic at the Memorial, has won it twice. He has not been winning tournaments for the last couple of years, but he's eminently competitive, and especially right here at Muirfield Village. I expect him to contend. I expect him to be there on Sunday. While I might not be taking him to win at 20 to 1, that top 10 in a short field at plus 140 with the profit boost can still be pretty nice. Of course, everything is up, including round 1. If you want to go a first round leader, you've got head-to-heads between a number of the players, some groups, a wire winner, and then some Scotty Scheffler props as well, plus 160 to finish top 2, to win by 2 or more shots is plus 350. That's where we're at right now with Scotty. We almost need to get some exotic bets because he's such a heavy favorite, despite not getting it done last week. One other thing I should mention, that Ride with Huss is up in the combo cards. Panthers to win, OKC minus 8.5. Nice boost. Thank you, Jake and the boys in the back. Plus 265, now plus 305. So I'll be riding with that, and then a couple more sprinkles for it all. And Patty, coming up, I mean, we're getting ready for Stanley Cup final, NBA final. I have a feeling could be closing time for some of these teams with 3-1 leads. I'm leaning on both of them tonight. But the closing time we'll all be looking at tonight is closing out our opponents at Coolbet for the WST Poker Series, which gets going at 8:30.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You got to get back to that final table. I feel it. I feel like it's coming for you. But I do know there's a lot of real good players in this tournament. It's not just there are some serious players to be had. You mentioned Scotty Scheffler, though, before I do take off. I had to have him. I had to have a piece of him somehow. So for my Greggy's Golf Specials, you can find that in the lobby right now at the top of coolbet.com. It's Greggy's Golf Special for the Memorial Tournament. Scotty Scheffler, top 10. Corey Connors, top 20. And Vic Hovland, top 20. That's boosted from plus 329 up to plus 377. And just want to clarify some things when it does come to the Coolbet, the top 10s, top 20s. It does include ties. So when you look at some of these parlays, when you look at some of these bets, there might be some better numbers on some other websites that you see that have these top parlays. Those top parlays, though, do not include the ties. So that is where maybe you're getting a little less of a number at Coolbet. But if, let's say, Vic Hovland ties T20, you're getting your number. Whereas if it's a T20 tie, for some of those other parlays that you see at some other websites, those ones actually don't cash.
I love it. I'm in on the Greggy Golf Special. Scotty top 10, seemingly automatic, and you made a great case for Corey Connors. We're already on Vic. Ride with that as well at plus 377. Patty, thanks as always. Looking forward to seeing you and the fellas next week for a little baseball and some golf. Going to be great, but in the meantime, let's have some fun tonight. 8:30 p.m. WST Poker Series. We'll have all the information if you haven't gotten there before as to how to enter the tourney tonight. $100 bounty on my head, Michael Remis. It'll be fun. We will see you all then. Patty, have a great weekend. Enjoy the tourney.
May the best player win.
You got it. All right, there is Pat Gregoire. All right, of course, we'll be all over the Memorial for our Breezy Bend Golf Reports tomorrow and Friday. I'll actually be getting out to Breezy Bend tomorrow as well after the show. Can't wait for that. If you want more information on Breezy and membership for the upcoming seasons, go to breezybend.ca or give our pal Corey Johnson a call over at the clubhouse. And don't forget, Gold Ice tickets for our night, June 19th, on sale now. Incredible response. We've only had them on for about 48 hours, more than half gone. Go to winnipegsportstalk.com, get your tickets, and we'll see you for our patio party at the ballpark on June 19th. Sea Bears are in action tonight. Let's welcome in the head coach, Mike Taylor, to tee up a big home game against the Vancouver Bandits. Sea Bears back in action tonight, hosting the 3-0 Vancouver Bandits. Let's welcome back to Winnipeg Sports Talk to Coach Mike Taylor. What's going on, Mike? Great to talk to you again.
Hustler, great to be back. Great to be back and talk with you guys.
Hey, we're well into the season now. Well, 1-2. A great start to the year, though, I have to say. I mean, people still talking about the buzz in and around the city from that home opener. Now, and as great as the excitement of the win and the entertainment there, I did want to ask you just on, remembering Chad Posthumous, what he meant to this organization and the city. And it was a beautiful way to start it, remembering a guy that really will always be synonymous with Sea Bears basketball.
Yeah, David Asper and the organization did a first-class job of remembering Chad. I'm so thankful I was a part of it, renaming the street here Chad Posthumous Way, having his family deliver the game ball, and then the great videos and the great tribute to Chad, 33 forever, retiring his jersey. It was a special moment for all of us that knew him and loved him. Obviously, it's a difficult situation, but we're choosing to honor Chad with he's the role model, the example, the spirit of what we want a Sea Bear player to be. A person who loves Winnipeg and loves the Sea Bears. He's willing to do whatever it takes. They're all in. And Chad was clearly that. There was nobody that was more excited for our championship weekend hosting season now. And there's nobody that wanted to bring a championship to the city more than Chad. So it was a really well done ceremony and well done tribute. And like I said, it was emotional for all of us that knew him and loved him. And we're really, I was thankful to be a part of it.
Mike, after that, I mean, you guys were able to, really put forth a great performance. Got a little dicey maybe during target time, but you got that win. But how are you guys feeling? It was a tough home and home against a really good Calgary team over the last week. And now you got to fire it up tonight against a first-place Bandit squad.
Yeah, we controlled the tempo and played very well for the majority of the game. And then target time, it was a new experience for all of our guys. We did not handle it the way we wanted to, but the key thing was we found a way to win. The Calgary games, I think for us, it was a situation we've got to do a better job against that type of pressure and physical defense in terms of the shot selection and shot creation. Every game, Hustler, is a puzzle, and we've got to figure out that puzzle, solve that puzzle together. And the pressure and physical defense from Calgary triggered their transition game and gave them some advantages. So good lessons for our team early in the season, a chance to, get back on the practice court and try to clean some things up. And now we're looking forward to the challenge against Vancouver, who have been playing lights out to start the season. So it should be a great next challenge for us, and we're really looking forward to our opportunity to bounce back.
Hey, Mike, you mentioned target time. I've always wanted to ask this to you. From a coaching perspective, how are things different once you get to the clock being off? Is it a matter of just still trying to do the exact same things you've been doing before, or do some of the strategies change when it comes to the target zone time at the end of the game?
Well, it's really a unique part of the game. I think that psychologically it's very interesting. And I think the key is different from traditional finishes to the game because coaches don't have as much impact on it. You can't really call a timeout and advance the ball. The players have to be able to respond and play the game they're together on the court. So we try to simplify the game for our guys. We try to give them, 3 actions that they can execute together. We try to focus on, certain types of defensive coverages. So we try to simplify it, streamline it so the guys can really play. I think what's really interesting is the psychological aspect of it, of, changing what you're doing that has made you successful throughout the game, because you feel like you want to make one big shot, like a hero shot. So you try to avoid the hero ball. I think pace is also very important. I think there's a natural tendency for a team with a lead kind of take their foot off the gas, relax a little bit, and try to really, hey, let's execute and get a good shot. Many times you're playing against a set defense, which is harder to score against. So I think there's little coaching points and little situations that you try to prepare your team in practice and in scrimmaging and have them ready to respond together in those games. But I will say that it's a new experience for guys, and experience from the year before or different leagues that have played the target score time ending can make a big difference for a team. We're fortunate this year that we have the inventor, the creator, Nick Elam, as a consultant for our team. And he's given us great tips, great details, great information. So it's just about us, putting those coaching points and tips into practice. And we're working really hard to do that as the season progresses.
Tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, I heard that it was the Elam ending. I didn't really know anything. I mean, tell us about Nick and how this came together and what you're looking for his contributions to be to the operation.
Yeah, Nick's a great guy. He's really intelligent, and I love him because he's a creative, out-of-the-box thinker. I first met him when I was coaching Team Fredette, Jared Fredette's TBT team in 2018. We had a great basketball tournament, the money tournament in USA. We had a great run, made it all the way to the Final Four in Baltimore. And I had met Nick, and we stayed in touch. And when I came to Vancouver and now Winnipeg in the CEBL, I would always ask him questions. And he was very fair. He did not, he wouldn't divulge information. But if I asked questions, he gave me answers. So there's been that connection over several years. With our staff changing a little bit this year, the opportunity for our analytic department changed, and we said, hey, you know what? Let's take a little different approach, and let's hire Nick as a consultant and really try to focus in on creating advantages in target score time. The first game was solid. We got some really good information about what not to do. And then the last few games were not competitive situations, but we actually executed pretty well in them. So we're really pleased with where we are. Nick's actually coming to town this weekend for the Ottawa game, so it'll be great to have him in market and get a chance to spend even more time personally with him.
That's phenomenal. Coach Mike Taylor of the Winnipeg Sea Bears, who are hosting the Vancouver Bandits tonight at Canada Life Center with us on the program. Tell us about Tevian Jones and Terry Roberts, 2 guys that I know a lot was expected of coming into the fold this year.
Yeah, we love these guys. Tevian Jones is, he's working into that mode of being the number one scorer and the top player and big offensive production guy in the team. We're working with him on his efficiency and things like this, but it's a transition. Teams are game planning for him. They're really making his life difficult out there on the floor with physicality and different coverages. And I think that's one of the things, the team reaction to different coverages to help each other really be successful on the floor takes time. But Tev's been great. He's really committed. He's plays with a chip on his shoulder. And he's been, everything we've asked him to be. So we're excited about that. And we think there's really great steps ahead for him with more efficiency. And, Terry Roberts has been outstanding as a point guard. He impacts the game in multiple ways. One of the things that we tried to do after having a scoring point guard mentality the last few years, we tried to get a guy who would play both ends of the floor, who would distribute the ball, and the guys really love to play with. And I think Terry checks all those boxes. He's been fantastic. And again, he's a guy that can get where he needs to go with the ball. He can get into the paint. He's a willing passer. He's very unselfish. And we love his impact to the game, both defensively and offensively. Almost had a triple-double in Calgary last game. So he's clearly the floor general for us this summer.
How important was it for you going in, looking at last year, what did work and what didn't work, to sort of change the overall focus of the team and have a player like him coming in that was more about bringing up all of his teammates than just being relied on to score 35 a game?
Yeah, I think that, we've had the star mentality with Teddy, with Justin, and these guys are super talented players. And I think, in basketball, it's really important to have those talented guys. And those guys were excellent players for us in their time in Winnipeg. But I think if we want to have that ultimate team success, we've got to play that team brand of basketball, meaning everyone's got to be a threat. There's got to be opportunity for guys to score and make defenses pay for different coverages at all the different spots. And again, those guys with the star mentality, they played with great responsibility. They were productive. They were able to get buckets. But I think a lot of the time it was hard for the rest of our team to also impact the game. So now we're trying to have more of that traditional team approach, team attack, and it's just taking a little time. We've gotten off to a little slow start offensively, but we see progress on the practice court, and we're hoping that we can also see some of those things carry over onto the game court these next few games for our team.
Coach, one of the great things about Sea Bears basketball is the opportunity for local people here to see some of our own. And, obviously, we got to wait a year for Simon Hildebrand due to NCAA. But, man, Emmanuel Akocher has been involved after having a full training camp. Tell us a little bit about how he's doing and his contributions, as well as Kyler Filowich, who we saw in March Madness, we talked to on the show, and now he's a member of your squad.
Yeah, E-Man first. He was so impressive for us last summer. He led our team in several categories statistically. And again, he just made a really good impact. Now he's got more responsibility with the team. He impacts the game at the wing, the small forward, power forward position. I think he's done a great job for us on both ends. You can tell he loves Winnipeg. He's playing with his heart. It's important to him. And again, it's one of those things that we're fortunate. We feel like we've got one of the best local players, Canadian three men in the league, who's from our hometown here in Winnipeg. So it's special for him to be able to play in front of family and friends. He had a little bit of a tough regular season. He got some injuries and had to work through those. So we're really happy he's back and healthy and really making a big impact. So E-Man's been key, and he will continue to be key, playing a big, important role for our team. And then Kyler, we tried to not have too high of expectations for him coming in. Ultimately, when Simi Shitu joins us, then Kyler will go into a really good role for himself as a backup five. But he's done really well. His activity on the boards, his physicality defensively has been great. And, as he gets more experience, he's going to be able to figure out how to get buckets and find ways to score. But we love him. He's a first-class guy. And, again, we hope that both E-Man and Kyler can be a big part of our organization, not only the short term, but the long term as well.
Coach, busy week for the squad. You got the first-place Bandits tonight, 3-0. Big challenge for you guys on home court. And then a couple days of practice and right back at it Saturday night against Ottawa. Good luck this week for the Sea Bears and continued success this season. Cannot wait to follow you guys throughout the year. And then, of course, the big one at the end, championship weekend right here in Winnipeg.
Thank you, Hustler. I'm a big fan. Winnipeg Sports Talk. Always great to join you guys, and hopefully see you guys out at the Canada Life Center for these games.
Good luck tonight, Coach. Thanks very much for your time.
Go Sea Bears.
All right, good luck to the Sea Bears tonight. They're back at it Saturday night. Great sports Saturday with the women's soccer game at Princess Auto Stadium at 1, and then Sea Bears in Ottawa going at it at 7:30 p.m. But tonight, downtown Canada Life Center, the 3-0 first place Vancouver Bandits are the squad to beat 3-0 on the season. Hopefully the Sea Bears can get a good result and take advantage of some home cooking. All right, we do have to get to our Assiniboia Downs picks for tonight. Live racing this evening, 7:30 p.m. And Reem, I was quite excited to do this segment today because I did it again last night. A big win on the race 7 triactor. But I had more luck last night than I had in all live racing days put together of the season.
Yeah, we were going over looking at our results today, and you pretty much fell out of your chair when you saw that. I went over, and you hit a couple big ones yesterday, so I'm really in the hole now. I wasn't happy about it, but I'm happy for you. personally, but
It
in
was-
this
it was
competition,
nice.
not happy.
There's a big, exactly. I mean, it's going to put, it's going to put a little pressure on you to hit a couple, but this is so last night, just to recap, 4 bets. I hit the win on 6 in number 1, $9 for a $4 bet. Did not win the exactor on race 4. And then I did 2 triactor bets. Race 6, 1, 4, and 8. That cashed $1 times 6. So it was a $6 bet, $63.95. And then race 7, I was channeling that crazy long shot that we had last year. It was a long shot that won the event, won the race, I should say. $41 on a $2 bet for the winning horse, Mineral Rights. But the 9, 7, 10 $1 triactor paid $292. So I'm in very good spot and hopefully going to be able to carry the momentum into tonight. Here's what I'm cooking up for tonight, Reem. Race 3, we're doing a 1-5 exacta. That is waiting by the Nile and bound for heaven. Race number 4, $4 on number 4 to win. That is 4 aces high. And then 2 triactors, much like I did last night, race 6 and race 7. Race 6, we're going 3, 7, 9. Curly Essa, Pinky Ring Bling, and Totalizer in race number 6. And then race number 7, 4, 5, 10. Clubhouse Charlie, Pino Bambino, and Swiss Laker Boy. There's my 20. The bar has been raised. We'll see whether we can cash a few more tickets tonight. What are you cooking?
Yeah, I'm going with race. I got to try to swing for some big winners here because that's what you've been doing, and you've been smoking me. And trying to hit singles, it's boring. Maybe it's okay, but let's see what we got here. Race 2. Triactor box, 1, 2, 3, Diane's Wish, Awfully Special, Russian Pearl. Those are all the program selections, AI Spar picks, so nothing too off the board there. Race 4, I'm on 4 aces high to win as well.
Right on, let's get that.
You had that one, so we're tailing each other. Race 5, I got an exacta, 2, 4, Will is Chill, and Lab Rat. That's a box exacta. And race 7, my try is 1, 4, 5. High Plains Hunk, Clubhouse Charlie, and Pino Bambino.
Nicely done. We both got Pino Bambino in on that. Yeah, I think I've got 4, 5, 10. You've got 4, 5, 1.
Yes.
We'll see what happens tonight. Live racing tonight, 7:30 p.m. You can use the HPI Bet app or site if you want. And can certainly bet remotely like we do and then watch the races on YouTube. I'm actually fired up, Remo, especially after the win last night. I'm going to have the hockey game on the TV, the poker tourney in front of me on this screen, and then Kirk, Stretch, and AS Downs live on YouTube throughout the evening. This should be a very fun Wednesday night.
Yeah, very fun Wednesday night. I agree. Hockey on, the basketball getting down to the wire too, and the horse racing on YouTube, all over it. And Sea Bears too. They're in action. We just had Mike Taylor on. You can stream it on their website, CEBL Plus, or head down to Canada Life Center and watch. So there's a lot. Jets are out. A great conversation with Murat, actually. I thought he killed it today, but a lot of other stuff going on. I guess baseball's on like all the time as well. I do have the MLB TV, and you can just put it on anytime. There's a game on. It's great.
We got to run out. We're going to hook up with a few of the women from the Canada women's soccer team for the upcoming shows heading into Saturday. But again, go to winnipegsportstalk.com. If you want to go to the game, enter in the contest. We've got tickets. We've got some great Canada soccer merch to give away as well. So make sure to get on that. We'll send some tickets out later tonight or tomorrow. Thanks again to Murat Atesh, Ed Tait, Patty Gregoire, Coach Mike Taylor, and all of you for being a part of the show today. Hope to see you all tonight at the poker tourney with Winnipeg Sports Talk. That is at coolbet.com. If you go to our socials, Sports Talk WPG, I'm at Hustlerama. We'll have links, and of course, Coolbet will have that as well, how you can get over and enter. And again, $100 bounty on Remis's head and mine for tonight. So good luck to everyone. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Enjoy the weather. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow on WST right here on YouTube.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.